So, what's our world actually going to look like in 2050? I mean, we all picture flying cars and stuff, but what do the scientists and futurists, the people on the front lines, really think is coming? We're about to dive into the breakthroughs and, yeah, the major roadblocks that could totally reshape everything by the middle of this century. And we are starting with a huge, huge idea. Futurologist Nick Bostrom isn't just predicting better tools for science. He's predicting a future where the scientists are the tools. He thinks humans might still dabble in science, as a hobby, but we won't be the ones making the real discoveries. It is a completely world-altering thought. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? How much of what's coming is already baked in by technology, and how much is still up to us to decide? And there's no bigger stage for that question than the single greatest challenge we face right here on our home planet. When we talk about the climate in 2050, it's not one single story. Experts see us standing at this massive fork in the road, and each path leads to a profoundly different world. The wild part? The path we're going to take is being decided right now. Okay, so here's something interesting. To really understand 2050, we have to look back a decade, to 2040. Climate modeler Guy Brashear says that by then, the world will have almost certainly blown right past that critical 2 degrees Celsius warming mark. So the world of 2050 isn't debating if climate change is real. Oh no, they're scrambling to figure out what on earth it can possibly do about it. And this is where we see those two paths just split wide open. One path is, well, it's pretty desperate. Picture a nation just hammered by climate disasters deciding to go it alone, unilaterally, and start injecting particles into the atmosphere to try and cool the planet. The risk? It could mess up weather patterns for everybody else in catastrophic ways. But then there's the other path, a much more optimistic one, where capitalism kicks in and pulling CO2 from the air becomes this huge business, turning our biggest problem into valuable stuff like plastics and fuels. This is the exact danger Brashear is warning about. Can you imagine the tension, the conflict? One country's fix causing a drought or a flood in another? We could be looking at wars fought over the weather itself. It's just a brutal reminder that we're all stuck on this one planet together. All right, let's shift gears. Let's look up from our own world and out to the stars. For decades, it's been the ultimate dream, putting human boots on the red planet. So by 2050, will that dream finally be a reality? The ambition is absolutely there, and these timelines are incredibly aggressive. You've got SpaceX, you've got NASA, everybody is in a new space race to Mars, and all their goals are set for well before 2050. The engineering problems are insane, but the sheer will to get there seems unstoppable. But there might be a massive blind spot in this whole race. Amelia Jaworski points out that everyone is so focused on the rockets, the engineering of getting to Mars, that they're kind of ignoring the human body. We're talking about deep space radiation, the insane effects of microgravity. It really boils down to this. Building the ship is one thing. Making sure the crew actually survives the trip is a whole different ballgame. Now, let's bring it back to Earth and look at two other frontiers that could just completely change the game by 2050. The dawn of AI scientists and the hunt for the ultimate clean energy source. This takes us right back to that mind-bending prediction from the beginning. So how could it happen? Well, the road might look something like this. First, AI starts making Nobel-level discoveries. Then you get these automated lights-out labs that run experiments 24/7 with no humans needed. And that could all lead to the big one, artificial general intelligence, or AGI. An intelligence that could, just as predicted, answer science's biggest questions. But what does that mean for us, for human curiosity, when discovery is no longer our thing? Okay, let's talk energy. For decades, there's been this running joke among physicists. You know the one. Clean, limitless energy from nuclear fusion is always just 30 years away. Year after year, it was always just over the horizon. The ultimate scientific promise that just never seemed to arrive. Well, guess what? That joke isn't funny anymore, because it might not be a joke. Physicists are saying that there's been more progress in just the last 5 years than in the 50 years before that. That is an incredible pace. All of a sudden, fusion power by 2050 isn't a punchline. It's a genuine, thrilling possibility. So we've got AI scientists, fusion power, maybe even humans on Mars. The technological future for 2050 looks limitless. But what if the biggest thing standing in the way of all this isn't a technical glitch? What if the biggest obstacle is us? This is the human factor. Experts are seriously worried that certain trends in our society could grind all this incredible progress to a halt. We're talking about the rise of populist movements that want easy answers to hard problems. We're talking about tight budgets that squeeze funding for research, and political attacks on the very idea of doing science just to learn something new. That basic, curiosity-driven science is what leads to the biggest leaps, but it just can't happen without public trust and long-term support. As Foresight consultant Patrick Vanderdyne puts it pretty bluntly, this constant pressure to have a clear short-term payoff for every dollar spent on research, well, it creates a terrible environment for the kind of big, ambitious, world-changing science we need. And this is the core of the human factor. It's the idea that no matter how powerful our tools get, our future isn't ultimately shaped by our tech. It's shaped by our choices, by our collective will to invest in knowledge, and by our patience to support science even when we don't know exactly where it's going to lead. And that leaves us right here. From engineering our own climate to creating super intelligent AI, technology is handing us this incredible and frankly kind of terrifying menu of options. But the technology doesn't make the choice. We do. Our values do. So the real question isn't, what will 2050 look like? The real question is, which 2050 are we going to choose to build?